Shalom, everyone. We're going to talk today about traveling when the time for Shacharit already began or before. And you have to remember that Rabbi Melamed lives in Israel, where the longest trip, I think, by car is 7 hours. It's from Metula in the northern Galilee all the way to Eilat in the on the coast of the Red Sea. So we're not talking about distances like Route 66 and Canada, which is even bigger than the States. We're talking about planning a trip by car or by train. We're not talking about planes. That's a whole different situation. We already talked about planes in terms of when you're already in the air, what time to pray and all that. We're just talking about normal travel, and the distance that we're going to discuss is the distance of 72 minutes. So before Amud Shachar, a person is allowed to travel, provided that he plans his departure in such a way that he will succeed in reciting Shacharit on time. Okay, so that he has close to 5 hours from dawn until the end of the fourth hour, and so like I said, the most of the traveling that he does, he will have that opportunity. However, after Amud Shachar, a person is prohibited from going on his way. Instead, he must pray first, and only then may he leave. Even if he has to leave home so early that he will miss praying with a minyan in his area, whereas he will still be able to pray in a minyan at his destination, it is preferable for him to pray individually before departing. So the Mishnah Berurah again is talking about a time where they didn't even have cars, and the Rav Yisrael Chaim Radin died in 1935, and so the cars then only went 8 or 10 miles an hour, and that's why. And there was a lot more mechanical problems, and with horse and buggy, it's even more complicated. So that's why the main ruling is to pray, even though Amud Shachar is not the best way, because we learned that Vatikin is the best way, the prayer at Netz. It's better to concentrate on prayer and not worry about the trip, and then go on a trip. And when you get to your destination, you get to the destination. In those days, there wasn't like today, where I have a meeting at 7 a.m. in the middle of Manhattan, and I live across the bridge in New Jersey, where I have to worry about rush hour and all that. So, of course, a lot of these circumstances are changing all the time, and and you should just ask your rabbi which is preferable. But these are the guidelines based on the Mishnah Berurah. And again, Rav Melamed doesn't want to tell people in other countries where he doesn't know such distances. I mean, I'm sure he knows geography. He never left Israel, as far as I know. And so the imagination that he has is such a trip, to Yerushalayim, to Tel Aviv, to Netanya, to Haifa, even maybe even to Beersheba, which would probably take him from where he lives 2.5 hours. So all of these, he says, it's better to pray from the time of dawn, and then say the Shema and the Amidah, and then go on your way. And if you have time afterwards, you can say Psukkah Zimra and all kinds of other things that you might have skipped in order to depart on time. So he explains, this prohibition refers to setting out on a long trip, for that is the meaning of Yotzei Derech, going on one's way. One interpretation maintains that the words refer to a journey that lasts at least 72 minutes. That's from the Shut or Letzion. Shut is the responsa. In times of need, one may rely on that opinion. Therefore, concerning a person who must start traveling earlier than the time of the minyan in his area, if his trip lasts less than 72 minutes, it is preferable for him to leave and then pray in a minyan at his destination. However, if his trip lasts longer than 72 minutes, it is best that he pray first in his area individually. And the Gashashim, the trio of comedians in Israel, they have a skit about why somebody said Birkat HaGomel, the prayer of thanksgiving, on Shabbat morning, and he says it is known that a Sephardi Jew who travels from Yerushalayim to Tel Aviv and comes back safe and sound must say HaGomel. And so even though it's a joke, there were times that people felt that even a trip that is only an hour and 12 minutes could pose certain dangers. And so it's better to pray before you leave. That way you kept that mitzvah, and hopefully Hashem will protect you on the way doing that. Now, last but not least, there's a completely different stipulation. If the entire trip is for the sake of prayer, for example, traveling to recite Shachrit at the Kotel at the Western Wall, one is permitted to depart before praying, even if the travel time will last more than 72 minutes, for he is traveling to pray and not for his own personal needs. And so I'll just, again, put a few more details. If you're going to miss the time of Shema, then of course, before you leave, you should say the Shema. And you should also know that there's lots of traffic in the old city of Jerusalem. And so many people go on Mondays and Thursdays to have a bar mitzvah at the Kotel, whether with their whole family or a whole bus or even two buses. And there was a terrible story in the late 80s where a bus got stuck on the train tracks, and they were on their way as a class to celebrate their bar mitzvah at the Kotel. But again, if we say the Shema before and we have this intention, so even if it's more than 72 minutes, you are allowed to depart even after the time of praying started. And so in the context of what we're allowed to do and not allowed to do, again, eating and drinking before davening, yes, it's already mentioned in the Talmud, but again, he's going to explain what the parameters are for this idea. So from the time of Amud HaShachar, from the time of dawn, it is forbidden to eat or drink before praying. The Chachamim, the sages in the Talmud, support their words, Brachot 10b, on the verse in Leviticus, do not eat on the blood, lo tochlu al adam, which they interpreted as do not eat before praying for your blood. About 100 years ago, Rav Avraham Yitzchak HaKohen Kook, who was the first chief rabbi of Palestine, the first chief Ashkenazi rabbi, actually wrote a commentary on the Siddur called Alat Raya. I was looking for this specific paragraph. I couldn't find it there, but it says that in his writings that if you pray the Psalm 30, which talks about Ma betza bedami, what use is my blood if I can't pray to you, then it's considered as if you already prayed for your blood, and then it's permitted to eat. But I don't think that he was saying that you should sit down for breakfast. I think that he was just saying that if, in case you have to take medicine, as Rav Melamed will explain, that is a good minimum to at least acknowledge that you already prayed for your blood. Further, they teach anyone who eats and drinks first and only afterwards prays. Scripture says of him, this is a quote from Kings, so for sure it's not a mitzvah, it's just what the prophets teach us. You have thrown me behind your body, gavecha. The word used for your body alludes to gavatecha, your pride. The Kadosh Baruch Hu says, after this person acts arrogantly, he accepts upon himself the yoke of heaven, like it's not really possible. He's being hypocritical. However, water is permissible. Drink before prayer because there is no aspect of pride in drinking it. Similarly, one is permitted to eat food and drink beverages that are intended for medication. There's many rabbis, and again, you should ask individually, who allow tea and coffee before davening, because it will help you stay awake and concentrate better. I personally try not to, but sometimes I feel like I'm too tired, so I need a little bit of caffeine in order to wake up. And because they're being used as medicine, there's no aspect of pride in consuming them. For example, someone who is suffering from constipation is permitted to eat prunes before prayer, since he is eating them as medicine. And of course, he's not writing it here, but you have to make sure to relieve yourself as a result. Otherwise, you're going to run to the bathroom in the middle of service, and that's even more embarrassing and a problem. Someone who is so hungry that he cannot concentrate on his prayer, like I said, is allowed to eat before praying, because the law regarding him is similar to that of a sick person who must eat. His eating does not possess any aspect of pride. And in the Yeshivot of Chabad called Tomchei Tmimim, they serve honey cake or chocolate cake and tea and coffee, but they also have an hour of studying before the prayer. So it's really just to get into the proper mindset. A weak person who is able to pray individually first and eat breakfast afterwards, but cannot delay his breakfast until after the time of prayer in a minyan, should pray individually and eat after prayer. The chatchila, after the meal, it is good to go to the minyan in order to hear Kaddish and Kedusha, and again, depends on your ability. Last but not least, minor who has not yet reached the age of bar mitzvah is allowed to eat before prayer. For educating minors not to eat forbidden food applies when the food itself is not kosher. However, when the Chachamim created a fence not to eat before prayer or before Kiddush, they did not obligate minors to abide by that fence since the food itself is not forbidden. And we'll stop here.